Hey there, Bob from Oregon's Closet Gardener. We're doing viewer questions, but at OCG, Christopher.
Nice to see y'all.
So, let's just get right into it.
Let's do it.
It's going to be a new thing we're going to be doing. So, I've got some questions on paper here because you have a printer.
I have a printer, and you guys hit me up at the support at Oregon's Constant Gardener. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to drop us a line there. You can find that right on our website too, under the support section. So we try to do everything we can to support you while you're using any of the products, but especially nectar.
Cool. So you gave me a bunch of questions, and I've kind of pared it down to a few that I think might be diverse, and we'll figure out what people want to hear by doing this. So question one. So I bought one shot to put in my next grow. Do you recommend I mix it in a bag of number 4 or fill my pots, then top dress? And he goes on and on, but what do you recommend with someone doing on one shot? How would you use it in your grow?
The main way we advocate customer use it is mixing it in with your soil. We do have the 4-shot soil, which has already done some of that work for you. It's already got its number 4 soil with 1 shot mixed in there. So we generally recommend a customer when they go to transplant, most people have gotten a clone or they have a plant that they're transplanting into a container. Before doing that transplant, mixing about 1 pound per 10 gallons of soil in that container, about 1 pound of 1 shot. I believe this customer was asking in regards to he has a seedling that he's wanting to plant into some soil and was wondering whether he should still amend with that same amount of 1 shot, which I advocated for. You could do that, but I would recommend probably doing at least half that amount or maybe even a quarter of that amount before you transplant directly a seedling into, say, number 4 soil, and then come back and do a top dress. A lot of customers, even with doing that amending of 1 pound per 10 soil gallons, they're still, if you were just only using 1 shot, you would want to come in and still do some top dresses with 1 shot throughout the grow. If you were liquid feeding, you wouldn't necessarily need to do any more top dresses. But that's what we considered the pound per 10 gallons of soil. We have a saying here, I picked it up from Ryan, if we're packing their lunch for the season. It's like they have a lunch to go with them every day if they're hungry, and I haven't provided them more. There's something there in the soil for them. So a customer who does that recommendation, they may find they still need to do more if that's all they did.
So little pot at the start, none?
Typically, no. If you were going to do a seedling straight into that, I really generally wouldn't recommend putting 1 shot in. If I was, it would be a very minute amount. Okay,
bigger pot, mixing it in with the stuff.
Yeah, if you're coming in with a clone that's already established or is growing, right into the soil with that pound per 10 gallons.
I'm in a big pot. Still mix it? Or maybe...
Still mix it.
Still mix it. And then they're going to grow the roots looking for it.
Yep, and then throughout that season, that's the beauty of 1 shot, is if I'm wanting to only ever just do plain water, you're going to want to top dress with that 1 shot. Typically, maybe once during the veg. If I'm outdoors, you might, in a long season, you might do 2 top dresses throughout that veg period through, you know, if I put my plants in May, I'm probably doing another top dress maybe towards the end of June, maybe another one in July, and then definitely one just before you go into bloom.
Okay. What if I am doing a lot of bottle and I'm just using this as kind of a safety feature kind of thing? Still the same thing, just mix it in the soil?
Yep, and that's generally where we say if you're going to be doing liquid regimen on top of the amending, you're only going to do that amending that 1 time. You could possibly do another top dress before you go into bloom to lessen how much I have to do on the bottles. But that's where 1 shot really provides gardener versatility in how they want to approach how much work they want to do with the garden.
What if you're recycling that soil for next time around? Would you do it any differently? You just mix some more in there, and would you mix anything else in there?
Yes. If I reuse my soil, which I do, I mix about that pound per 10 soil gallons. I come in with a little bit of compost and a little bit of earthworm castings. That's my reamendment. You could throw in some biochar in there. I mean, of course, from there, I mean, you could do other dry amendments, but again, the beauty of 1 shot is Scott, kind of being the master chef, he's already kind of blended up all of those other dry amendments into a kind of known way it's going to react with plants and the release of it.
So anything else you're putting in there, you're doing from more of kind of a microbial level or microbial food level? Or you just...
The compost is more to kind of just build up the organic matter, especially like our soils that are mainly cocoa and perlite based as the higher percentage inputs. At the end of a couple grows especially, you're going to be running out of like that organic matter. There's still going to be a lot of cocoa fiber there and perlite, but the plants will have eaten up almost all of those worm castings and compost, and you'll find that soil can dry out really fast and it almost becomes like a soilless mixture where it's just cocoa and perlite left after a while, and even just after one grow.
Would you mix in like maybe some more number 4 with that number 4 along with something? Do you ever do that, or you to some extent? But
absolutely.
But you putting that the other stuff in there kind of brings it back to where you need it as far as having some.
Like I said, if going from like number 4 that has cocoa, perlite, it's got earthworm castings, it's got compost, it's got dry amendments in there. By the end of that grow, really, kind of all you're left with is the cocoa and perlite. So you need to add in a lot of those other things. So I find just adding one shot, that would be great, but you're going to be in a medium that's going to probably dry out really quickly and also potentially be a little hydrophobic. So that could be a problem. Just having a hard time getting hydrated again. So yucca hydration comes into play.
Okay. But that would be, you're trying to save it. You're fixing the problem by putting it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we got a lot of info.
Good answer. Good answer. Let me see here. Hi, I live in the Eugene area looking for a nutrient line to grow cannabis. I will be growing 4 plants in a 4x4 tent and wondering what the best nutrients would be to use. I was thinking about starting with a Spartan kit. Is there anything you would add to that for better results?
Spartan kit is the base for nutrients that we recommend if a customer is going to be relying on liquid nutrients as their sole source of food for the plants. That's the minimum amount of bottles they're going to need from beginning.
But would be enough, or
would be enough by itself. Beyond that, we advocate the Athena's Aminas and Demeter's Destiny as the 2 next most important products in the line to incorporate. Those are what come in kind of what used to be the sample kits. And those have always been advocated. If there's going to be 2 products beyond the Spartan kit that you need to add, those would be it. From there, there's some other things I could definitely point people to, but that's where most people are going to see benefit.
If you were just getting started, would you maybe think about putting some one shot in there to give yourself a little room for learning and growing?
Yeah, I mean, again, that gives you that. I pack their lunch for the season. I don't have to solely rely on all my liquid feeds. It also does help to ward off deficiencies if you aren't quite as dialed in
as
with your liquid feeds. Like say I've been mixing this up and I have a real hungry strain that really just ain't quite enough, you know, without increasing the dosages than what our feed charts. Because if I'm a novice grower, I'm probably like, oh, this is what the feed chart says. I'm not going to differentiate from this very much. And that's one of the beauties of nectar is our feed charts are a guide. Different strains have different requirements, and so some strains may need a little bit more on those dosages. And as a new gardener, I may not be cued in or quite as comfortable.
Learning, you know, as you go with the process of figuring out.
So one shot's a great thing to put in that soil. It provides those backup reserves in a way that's super gentle for your plant that most likely you're not going to have problems coming in, especially with our products because they're paired to work with one shot. You're not going to have problems of an overfeeding scenario unless you really mess some things up.
So if you were doing the 4 basic, would you think about starting to move into Athena's, Demeters, that sort of thing? Or maybe look at some Photo Plus or SLF as a microbial and that sort of
I would probably lean towards the Athenas and Demeters first if I'm a customer that is pushing maybe for yield. Overall, I think those are still going to be, you're going to have microbial activity going on in your soil because you're using soil, it has compost in there, there was earthworm castings in there. That's a tough question because I think you'd see great benefit from incorporating both, but some customers or gardeners may not have the pocketbook to afford 2 new products plus another 2 microbial products. I could go either way on that one. I really could. That's a tough one for me.
Well, and I guess I'd ask you this too. If you were talking with someone, you might be able to look at their situation and say, well, I'd lean this way or I'd lean that way, through actually having some details instead of just up in the air, you know, which would you prefer?
If I'm planning to use one shot with the base 4, I would probably lean more towards the microbial inputs. If I'm using just the base 4 in our soil, I might lean a little more towards incorporating Athenas and Demeters before a microbial product. But I'm torn there.
Okay! Whoa! That was exciting. Back after a minor technical difficulty with that. I got a couple store questions. And I think this is where this might be a really valuable show, is with stuff about ordering online from the store. So, a couple here. There's AVS failure. When you're ordering something on the site and it says AVS failure, what is that?
Yeah, we get this question a lot of times during the course of a week. Customers will be trying to place their order. Some even think they have an order, and they'll get a little message that says AVS failure. What has occurred, and the reason why people will think that they have completed a successful order, is they will see a charge to their bank card. Basically, these transactions were approved by their bank, but they were declined by ours due to the payment processor due to a billing information mismatch. So that means either the street information that was put in or the billing information, not your shipping information, because those can be 2 different pieces of information. That does not match what your credit card company
like
has
when
on
it says
file.
what's your address and what's your zip code, and you put that in. If you put that in wrong, it's going to go through your bank, but then our bank
declined.
And then what? So it doesn't ultimately get charged, but you ultimately don't get an order either.
You also don't have an order. So yeah, so a lot of customers will comment or reach out to us, say, hey, I have two charges. I only want one of those orders. Currently, you have no order, but you have 2 charges against your card. Those will get refunded back to you. They're based on your batch frequency, this batch cycle frequency from your bank. Typically 24 to 48 hours. Some may be as long as, unfortunately, 72 if the bank company doesn't move fast.
But hopefully it's your credit card, not your debit card, and you don't have it's not an issue.
Yeah. And then typically we advise customers before continuing to keep trying, give your bank a call to just verify that info. Most of the times it's customers confusing their shipping address as their billing info. Maybe they moved years ago. It's hard for us to know. We don't know everything that's happened in your life. But yeah, the most adequate way to get that resolved is to call your bank and just verify that info. As soon as that information matches, you're going to get a successful order. P.O. boxes seem to be one that do trick up customers, and unfortunately there's no standardization in the financing marketplace on how P.O. boxes are entered. So it could PP dot O dot box, it could be no periods, it could be lower cases. In those instances, we recommend, if you're just really struggling with your P.O. box, to just enter the numbers of the box.
Just the number.
PO itself.
Okay, not the letters or that thing. Just put in what. Okay.
And that's a special circumstance with just P.O. boxes. Most of the time, we recommend just call your bank and verify that, and you won't have a problem.
Okay. Now, sometimes it'll say freight code required on some of the stuff.
Yes.
What's going on there?
What's going on there is you have a Titan item and multiple Titan items in your cart. So say...
What's a Titan item?
Titan item is going to be 2 heavy items to get free shipping. So those are going to be like our 5-gallon buckets. Soil.
The big stuff.
The big stuff. And they're going to be clearly notated as a Titan item.
Okay.
And in the Titan collection. So those should be some indicators. But if you have one 5-gallon bucket, it's going to give you a shipping quote. But if you have more than a certain amount or over a certain weight tolerance,
it's to a point where it's got to be shipped differently.
It has to be shipped freight, and unfortunately, there's no way to auto-calculate your freight, so we just have to get a freight quote. So that's what that means. Means that you haven't paid shipping yet. We need to get a freight quote, and for you to confirm the those shipping charges, and that will be a separate charge.
So there's some items that don't fall under the free shipping, like soil and things, where they're so heavy that it just doesn't work to do the free shipping thing. And these are those things.
Those are those items if you have a certain quantity that go over a weight amount. So if you have just like one bag of soil, you're going to get just a UPS shipping quote. It's not going to be pretty because unfortunately it's heavy, and that's just the soil game right now. 5-gallon buckets the same way. But if you had just one in your cart, you're going to get just a UPS quoted price for the shipping. But if you have 3 or 4 of those items in your cart, it just depends on where the weight lands. It's going to spit you out freight quote required. And that means I just got to reach out and figure out what that shipping will be for you.
And so this is not going to come up if you're ordering gallons and stuff like that. It's just when you do an order of the bigger things in the Titan category.
Or if you had gallons in your cart, but then you do have a Titan
item, it starts
or multiple Titans.
Yeah,
that's where the world gets blended.
Okay, good answer. So that's that for the viewer questions at OCG with Christopher. But let us know, comments, what kind of questions you want to ask for him. So we'll do this all the time. That's that. That's a show.
Thanks, everyone.